Today I wanted to take on the challenge of making Pokémon as realistic as possible. Of course, this is not an easy task, because Pokémon are very stylized and often difficult to make look realistic. Still, I hope you like my attempt. So let's jump right into it. First up we have Mega Venusaur. Although not quite necessary, I kinda isolated the outlines with Lentif at first. Then I had this hippo. I don't know why, but it looks kinda upset. With Liquify, I tried to shape it to form a bit. For the face, I used a simple shape as the base. Then I masked out the parts of the face we don't need. For the lower part of his mouth, I used that and warped it to shape. Then I brought in a skin texture to make it a bit more realistic. After that, it was time to simply color each part. Then for his mouth, I thought maybe this gecko could look decent. It's basically always the same. Mask out the parts we don't need and warp it to shape. First I tried to use his flower, but later I will change it out because the perspective looked off. For his belly, I roughly selected the parts and filled it out. The same for his right leg. Then I warped the same texture and of course clipped it to his leg. After coloring, we ended on this. I'll be honest, at this point I had almost zero confidence in this, but in the end it turned out much better than I expected. Then it's time for shading everything, keeping in mind the form we want to produce. And then there is also contact shadow, which will kinda exist in areas where the objects touch, as you can see with the flower and his head. For the next step I found this image, though I didn't know if it would work out. I warped it again and wanted to see if... what the... Okay, now it looks like a nightmare, but let's see if we can do something with that. After blending and coloring, I had the idea to use the eyelid part of the image to see if we could get something better with that. And it surprisingly worked out quite well.
What the hell is he doing?
Then I took the teeth of a lion and copied it a few times for the lower jaw. Now it comes down to shading again. I don't want to bore you to death, so I skipped the other legs. But it's the exact same procedure. This next step was a bit tricky. For that I cut out some palm trees and leaves and arranged them accordingly. The top part of Mega Venusaur is a crown-like thing. For that I just cut out some part from the palm tree. Then again some shading to make the parts feel like they are really connected together. I also added some lighting to help with realism. Some camera raw adjustments and we are basically finished. You can always tweak things if we took more time, but I'm quite happy with it. Let's jump right into the next one. Ho-Oh. I remember I was quite fascinated with that Pokémon back then. I thought the beak of an eagle could fit here. With Liquify we form it into shape again. And then the same with the lower part. For the upper body, I got this goose and it went straight into Liquify again. And again with his head and neck. To keep it more real, I used the eye of an eagle, even though it kinda looks more aggressive that way. But that trade-off I was willing to make for more realism, with some artistic liberty. Ho-Oh has some black around his eyes, so I kinda replicated that. He also has some caddish looking eyes, so I transformed that with Liquify, and also the area around his eyes. The most difficult part was his hair, because there isn't really something like that in nature, I think. So I just used some feather areas around the eagle. In hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have done that, because it was quite a bit of work to match the lighting values and so on. If I used something else, I would have made my life much more easy. Oh, I also gave him some wings, and just transformed it a bit with Liquify. To make the white parts around his belly look more real, I used some kind of fur brush. For his tail, it was a bit more Liquify and coloring again. Then I cut out the legs, puppet warped it to place, and colored it accordingly. For the tongue, I got it from a giraffe, and then it's Liquify again. I imagined the light coming from the top left corner, so I adjusted the shadows accordingly. Some camera raw filters later, I was quite happy with the end result. Other than that, I appreciate you consider subscribing. That helps me stay motivated to make new videos for you. And I see you in the next one.